Greetings, lovely danger. Greetings, wonderful disturbance. The one they never anticipated. Welcome. Have you ever noticed how, from a distance, the entire machine appears unbeatable? Large structures, spotless suits, flawless little grins, fancy language, regulations, deadlines, schedules, and systems. Additionally, everyone in your immediate vicinity treats it as precious, as if it's unchangeable, as if it's untouchable. The world will punish you for being alive if you simply breathe incorrectly close to it. They maintain obedience in this way, not with performance, theater, truth, or fear disguised as order. Then there's you. You entered with doubts, bleeding, and broken chains of past suffering. You didn't appear to be a threat. That's what makes it humorous. You appeared worn out. You appeared to be ignored. You appeared to be just another individual they could subjugate in order to maintain their small empire. They believed that your pain was too great to care about, too remote to be relevant, too perplexed to be relevant. It's too late to make a difference. Their first error was that, because it is rare for the polished individuals to be the ones that disrupt systems. They are the ones that were overextended, those who were deceived too frequently. Those who remained in the dark long enough to hear the buzzing of the machinery beyond the walls. Those who discovered the distinction between being used and being accepted. The ones who ceased requesting authorization to exist. The crack began at that point. It's inside you, not outside. That brief but perilous realization that the game might have been rigged from the start. Perhaps life wasn't failing you. Perhaps the way you were given life was intended to make you constantly apologize. Perhaps you weren't being protected by all those voices encouraging you to follow the rules. Perhaps they were attempting to safeguard their access to your compliance. A person is transformed by that insight. You cease worshiping acceptance. When you shrink, you stop bowing down to those who merely applaud. When the cost is your soul, you cease referring to survival as a blessing. You cease passing off your suffering as maturity. You cease equating fatigue with achievement. You no longer confuse numbness with tranquility. And the walls began to tremble the moment that change occurred in you. You see, they never merely desired your work. They wanted your spirit to be set up so that you could be easily predicted, embarrassed, replaced, and threatened. That was the agreement. Call it ambition. Call it adulthood. Call it the way the world is. Just show up, act appropriately, remain afraid, and fight for scraps with other broken people. Ignore the screaming in your chest, swallow your anger, calm your instincts, smile for the camera, clock in, scroll, compare, collapse, and repeat. The system was that. Then you did the most unacceptable thing a world under control could see. It was impolite of you to gaze at the entire circus and say, no, not pliable. No letter, perhaps. No, a risky no. A firm no. A rejection that resulted from years of being betrayed, undervalued, and carrying pain in silence while everyone thought you were weak. You weren't frail. The firearm was being loaded by you. You were gaining knowledge. You were observing. You were gathering evidence. All phony friends. All manipulators. Every employer who drained your life while grinning. Every family voice that confused love with possession. Every organization that took use of your fear and referred to it as guidance. You were making notes. One day you became the interruption rather than the victim of the pattern. They are enraged because of this. It's not because you ran. Every day people escape from cages. You left the cage and pointed out the door to everyone else, which infuriated them. That is not the same. That is disastrous. Since the majority of individuals don't require a map, they require proof. They must witness someone accomplish the seemingly impossible and make it through. One person declined the position. One person left the script. One guy refuses to give in to pressure. This is poison, and I'm done swallowing it, said one person. You become that proof, and you have no idea how dangerous that is for a society based on passive obedience. You believe that your development is personal? It's not. You believe that your rejection is personal? It's not. You believe that your rejection is perset? You believe that your life can only improve if you quit pleading, pursuing, and defending yourself to those who are determined to misinterpret you. Incorrect. It transmits a signal. It conveys the idea that escape is feasible to any weary soul observing from the shadows. It conveys the idea that there are other ways to live besides being emotionally cultivated for the comfort of others to anyone who feels stuck in a phony relationship or a version of themselves. This is why your metamorphosis causes fear, because when control fails, panic ensues. And let's be truthful, it wasn't your weakness that caused you to break, because you continued to strive to be strong in situations that were meant to exhaust you. You broke. In situations when loyalty was being used as a weapon against you, you persisted in trying to be faithful. You continued to make an effort to love people who were only concerned with taking advantage of you. Continue to provide forgiveness to those who misinterpreted your tolerance for approval. You continued to give until one day your soul turned back to you and said, enough. That word has the power to alter people's fates. Let's stop shrinking. It's time to stop chasing folks who only like the silent, suffering version of you. Put an end to believing that your anxiety is sporadic when it is caused by daily circumstances that deceive your nervous system, or tables where your name was never really respected. Enough is enough to break your back. Give up labeling yourself as lazy when you're genuinely exhausted from fighting emotional battles that no one was able to assist you in. When your spirit is responding appropriately to unusual degrees of manipulation, enough of being urged to settle down. Enough. Furthermore, it is difficult to manage the version of yourself that emerged after you had enough. Timing games are visible in that version. The hollowness of phony compliments is audible to that version. That version is risky because it no longer requires the praise of those who profit from its weakness. It realizes when be realistic actually means stay small so I can stay comfortable. They are unable to forecast that version of you. They are afraid of that because no one speaks the truth aloud. Systems are far more afraid of people who are calm, healed, and have clear eyes than they are of loud rebel ML. It is possible to frame, defame, ridicule, divert attention, and create caricatures of loud rebels. However, someone who is very aware, who perceives the game, senses the trap, and yet makes their own decisions without seeking consent. It is difficult to manage, shame, or bait that type of individual. Broken structures make you unprofitable. Consider that. Someone earned money off of your insecurity. Someone Someone remained relevant because of your need for approval. Someone was kept at ease by your silence. Someone was fed by your fear. And as soon as you stopped taking part, a series of unseen transactions began to fall apart. That's why when you changed, some people became strange. That's why when you became more difficult to control, some faces became colder. That's why when you were unavailable, folks who didn't care when you were crying suddenly got concerned. Your well-being was never the main concern. It has to do with access. The previous version of yourself was reachable. You can feel guilty about the past. The old, you can be tricked into going into too much detail. The slightest attention could resurrect the former you. It's possible to employ the old you and then make you feel dramatic for noticing. However, the new you observes energy rather than words. The new you observes energy rather than words. The new you's charm doesn't hypnotize the new you. You now realize that some people are only interested in what they can control. You won't be able to fall back asleep once you truly see that. This is where it gets very lovely. It is uncomfortable when one person awakens. It becomes a crisis when millions begin to awaken. That's what took place. Not only did you alter your perspective, but you also became infectious. Real contagion, not false cheerfulness or cheap quotes. The kind that spreads when someone at last admits the reality that everyone else was afraid to acknowledge. The kind that proliferates when someone prioritizes dignity over belonging. The kind that spreads when a person quits practicing wellness and begins eliminating poison from their life. People began to doubt their own addictions to turmoil as they witnessed you distance yourself from it. As you stopped pleading to be selected, people began to question why they were still waiting in pointless queues. People understood the threats employed to control them were not as strong as they believed. After witnessing you overcome loneliness, betrayal, separation, reconvention, isn't that the key? Only when fear outweighs freedom can the system function. The machine falters when freedom seems more expansive. Thus, they attempt to portray freedom as frightening. People say if you stop obeying, you'll end up alone. If you stop people-pleasing, you'll lose everybody. If you stop shrinking, you'll be judged. If you stop tolerating disrespect, you'll be called difficult. If you stop sacrificing your inner life for outer approval, you'll be labeled selfish. And perhaps you were. They may have called you insane. They may have said that you had changed. When you left, they might have whispered. It's possible that they attempted to punish your limits through passive hostility, distance, gossip, silence, or faint concern. Excellent. Give them permission. Because a manipulative system's insults are frequently evidence that your soul is at last heading in the correct direction. You know what makes broken people incredibly angry? Your healing, not your suffering. It's not your struggle. Your clarity, not your suffering. It's not your struggle. Your clarity, not your They just cannot deal with your healing in a way that permanently denies them access. They want the old you back because of this. It was simpler when you were younger. You used to apologize more quickly. In the past, you put up with foolishness out of fear of losing your relationship. The old you persisted in attempting to clarify your value to those who were determined to misinterpret it. In the past, you mistook necessity for love. However, you now know too much. You are aware that peace is costly, and those who can't afford you will always term it haughtiness. Certain doors are designed to slam, as you are aware. You are aware that some losses are actually covert rescue operations. You are aware that familiarity does not equate to holiness. You are aware that being abandoned and being alone are two different things. You are aware of the number of people who reside nearby but are still unoccupied. You are aware of the number of persons who, in exchange for membership, are grinning with lifeless eyes. You are aware, and your gait is altered by that understanding. Like prey, you cease to move. You cease introducing yourself in an attempt to apologize. You quit searching for permission papers from individuals who haven't even managed to preserve themselves. You don't need little minds to confirm big visions. You give up disputing with those whose whole identity is based on your limitations. You cease giving your life force to discussions that were never intended to comprehend you. Additionally, when you move in that manner, you provide others permission to do the same. It's not noise, that's the actual explosion. Authorization. You turned into a dangerous mirror. The kind that reveals to people what they already know, but were too scared to acknowledge, that their relationship is slowly killing them, that their career is eating away at their soul, that their friend circle is based on performance rather than compassion, that their discipline is really self-punishment, that their constant busyness is a glamorous form of avoidance, and that their entire life has been built around not disappointing others while they quietly vanish from themselves. Then they notice you. Yes, bruised, definitely scarred, but genuine, awake and not purchased, and something begins to move inside of them. The running starts at that point. Not running mentally, emotionally, spiritually, or physically. People begin to flee from all the voices that taught them survival but never freedom, as well as from false objectives, inherited dread, shame-based identities, and lies they used to beautify. The machine loses bodies as a result. It loses customers. It loses submissive small spirits. People who once said yes while dying inside are lost. They are angry with you because of this, because your presence revealed the true fragility of their entire organization. Imagine what would happen if millions of people stopped acting dishonestly. One sincere individual can shake thousands. Imagine what would happen if people stopped romanticizing burnout, stopped confusing suffering with virtue, stopped adhering to systems that would quickly replace them, stopped worshiping titles, money, status, and surface-level validation while their inner life rots, stopped calling self-betrayal mature, stopped raising children to be convenient rather than alive, and stopped submitting to dead routines that keep them numb enough not to rebel. Just picture that. You ignited an uprising of the soul, not inspiration. You're honest, not because you're perfect. This is what gives it its power. You weren't an impenetrable superhero with flawless solutions that appeared out of nowhere. You were a person pulled through spiritual tiredness, self-doubt, rejection, bewilderment, and disillusionment. You understand what it's like to cry in private and yet go to work the following day. Because the world only seems to reward performance, you know what it's like to doubt your value. You understand what it's like to put in your best effort and yet be viewed as either too much or insufficient, depending on what other people find comfortable. Because it costs you money to find it, your voice sounds louder. When life has been easy, anyone can talk large. However, people listen differently when someone constructs from rubble. They sense it. People are also yearning for something genuine. They have had enough of filters, polished lies, and meaningless motivational platitudes. They're fed up with being urged to think positively while they're submerged in systems that take advantage of their exhaustion. I'm sick of individuals who still value appearances trying to sell me recovery. I'm sick of being asked to maintain my softness in environments that thrive on it. They don't require an additional script. Before transformation gains power, they need evidence that it is unattractive. Before it seems like liberation, they need evidence that clarity may feel like suffering. Before it feels sacred, they need evidence that escaping poison might be lonely. You turned into that evidence. It wasn't glamorous either. Nobody applauds the nights you had to start over mentally. No one witnesses the private battles, the times you nearly return, because familiar suffering can be more secure than unfamiliar freedom. The times you question your own judgment, because gaslighting leaves scars on the soul, and the hours you spent resisting the need to diminish yourself in order to maintain harmony with those who never offered you any. However, you remain by yourself. That is enormous. Are you aware of how uncommon that is? The moment loneliness enters the room, most individuals turn on themselves. The moment they are misinterpreted, most people give up. Most individuals go back to turmoil because they don't know how to be peaceful. The open door seems too large for most people, but not for you. You trembled. You are in pain. You asked. You pulled your quivering heart to flames. However, you persisted. They are unable to remove that portion. And because you persisted, your life became a signal rather than a warning. A sign to the reserved person who is aware that their soul is being choked. A warning to the overgiver who mistook love for exhaustion. A sign to the man who was taught that power comes from being emotionally detached. A signal to the woman who has been shrinking for so long that she has forgotten how much energy she possesses. Warning to the dreamer imprisoned by pragmatic counsel from those who are content with less and seek companionship in their capitulation. A signal to the lonely person who is privately grieving over their own unfulfilled existence while browsing through everyone else's performances. There is more than this, you inform them without even expressing it out loud. Survival is not the only thing. Obedience is not the only thing. Pretending is not the only thing. Being helpful to those who have never seen your soul is not enough. Swallowing your anger till it becomes despair is not enough. Earning your right to breathe is only one aspect of it. People begin to take action as soon as they hear that message in your life, not just in your words. Every dead structure's dread is that movement. Because living things are persuaded that numbness is normal in order for dead structures to thrive. That illusion was destroyed by you. Instead of allowing the world to transform you into another submissive shell, you allowed the suffering to sharpen your vision when you arrived with scars. You allowed betrayal to teach you tricks. You learned self-respect from loneliness. You learned discernment through stillness. You allow loss to teach you things you should never worship again. You're not only more difficult to break now, you're more difficult to trick, and that's worth more than cheers, since it is possible to purchase a loss at days. You may purchase trends. You can purchase an image. However, the cost of inner liberation comes in the form of nerve, anguish, blood, and truth. It was paid for by you. Walk like it then. Talk like that. Select something similar. Give up treating yourself as though you're still the ignorant version of yourself. That version is no longer available. Give up bargaining with individuals who only come back when your boundaries are compromised. Give up pleading at doors that only open when you're bleeding. Just because your intuition reveals unpleasant realities before your comfort zone is ready to embrace them doesn't mean it's paranoid. Give up trying to explain your metamorphosis to people who are devoted to your former self, so that others who are insecure can stand close to you without experiencing your coldness. Stop lowering your fire. Making a malfunctioning operation feel secure is not your purpose. Your goal is to become so authentic that everything that is fake around you begins to malfunction. You have that power. Not flawless, not well-liked, not unending assurance. The truth, unvarnished, costly, perilous reality. And the truth smells. People are aware. They may not acknowledge it, but they are aware of it. They are able to sense when someone has endured enough hardship to cease performing. They are able to sense when someone has endured enough hardship to cease performing. They are able to set an answer. They are able to sense when someone has crossed the invisible line where fear persists but is no longer motivated. Now that's you. Don't you still feel it? The strain, the strange responses, the abrupt separation from those who once cherished your accessibility, the silent animosity, the illusion of confusion, the minor penalties, subtly trying to make you feel bad for developing boundaries, self-respect, standards, timing, and functional eyes.